Hello and welcome to Detroiters Think Big, a small business podcast powered by Rocket Mortgage. I am your host, Devin O'Reilly, Director of Entrepreneurship at the Detroit Regional Chamber. And with me on this episode is Regina Gaines, the owner of House of Pure Vin, a Detroit small business on Woodward Avenue. A really cool wine shop when we're really excited to have her here today. Got a lot to talk about. So first things first, welcome Regina. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you, Devin?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here talking to you. We're actually just studio is just down the street from your business, House of Pure Vin. Why don't we start off by talking a little bit about what what you do, and tell us a little bit about kind of how you came to start your business.
So our store is a wine tail retail destination. It's a branded concept. The whole point was to try to develop a place where people can learn, engage, and taste wine. We kind of took a winery concept and a retail concept and kind of merge it together and kind of do some cool things. It's definitely experiential retail at the height. So everything we cultivate is around doing key things that you can do in order to like sell a bottle.
Very
Um,
cool. So tell me a little bit about how you came to open a wine shop. Have you always been interested in wine? Was it something you were passionate about, or was it just seemed like a good business decision?
So the wine shop is a good business decision, but I've been in the wine and liquor experience industry since I graduated from college in 1995. So I started in the industry in 1995. It's kind of the industry that I know. Um, I was kind of going through a midlife crisis, so I was attending law school at Michigan State University. And of course, if you know anything about Michigan State, they talk about Michigan wines all the time. And I did not know it was that many wineries in Michigan, and a lot of people like myself didn't know. I was kind of paying attention to what Dan Gilbert was doing downtown. It was definitely coming back. And I was like, what is missing was, a wine shop, something cool, something fun. I saw the demographics changing downtown, so I thought that this would be great retail where it can be like colorblind. Wine is, and of course, doesn't, it's not a black and white thing. So I just thought that it just made sense and it was a great fit. The store design kind of stuck into where the future of where Detroit was going in terms of style and design. We were getting a lot of recognition of like cool small things that we were doing. We've been around since 2015. We got started in 2014, and we went through every possible program in the city of Detroit to get funding.
Very interesting. So maybe talk about kind of how you came, because you're right, for those who haven't been, you're right downtown on Woodward Avenue. How did you come to choose that location?
So the funny thing is that when I came to that location, it was nothing there. I think the only thing that was on that block besides me, the spa had been there probably like 10 years. She's been open since 2008. John Varvatos was open Caddy Corner. So I was there before Nike. I was there before Detroit is the New Black. I was there before Shinola. So the reason why we picked that location, so we kind of won an opportunity to get our space out of a contest that we did with Bedrock through Tech Town. And we chose that location because I felt like between the development that Olympia Entertainment was doing, or Olympic Development, and Olympia, I'm sorry, and what Bear Rock was doing, we were like right in the middle. So we was like only 2 blocks from Olympia Entertainment, Olympia um, Detroit Development, and then we were at the time only a block away from Bear Rock. Now it's 2 blocks. So we was like right smack in the middle. So we just thought that that would be a great space to be because we were like there. So at first it was like no man's world. Nobody was on our block. But then we end up being around the center of development. So I think we kind of saw that it was happening like at Campus Marshes, and then it was happening at uh Grand Circus. So we figured if we just in the middle, it will end up being around us. And actually that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you even knowing that space, it's really just grown up all around you, even with the hotels. And so I imagine you've seen some increased traffic from all of the visitors that are staying downtown and working downtown now.
So the funny thing is that we were kind of heartbroken when COVID happened because 2020 was supposed to be like our year. So this is when like everything was supposed to like click at the same time. It was like we finally got full retail participation, you know, in between two major spots with H&M and Nike. The hotels was up around us. Shinola was almost two. Element was one. Woodby was approaching one, and then we were getting ready for the June kickoff. Um, so this was it. This was supposed to be the year that we were like right there in the mix. But of course, COVID happened. Um, but it's not over with. So that's kind of just where we at.
So yeah, talk about continuing on that. One of the things that we want to do with this podcast is talk to business owners and understand a little bit how they've had to change plans and pivot. And so talk about a little what you've had to do to pivot in light of the pandemic.
So the interesting thing about COVID was when we first got shut down, I was telling your producer that I lived in Houston during Katrina and Rita. So I looked at this like a natural disaster. I automatically knew that life was going to be different for 18 months. So when I got into this scenario beginning in March, everybody was like, oh, we just need to get through 30 days. We just need to get through 60, 90 days. And I literally was on an 18-month, starting my 18-month plan in March. If you're a small business, you'll know that last Christmas was a little different. The sales wasn't like it was, even though our country wasn't talking much about Corona, but you did see corporate activities change. It was a lot of conversations about Corona last November, December. And I saw a pattern change in terms of our sales. And then I also noticed too that the activity that was happening wasn't the same, and we quite couldn't understand first if it was just because the auto show was changing. So we used to having people coming in December, getting ready for the auto show, leave back off for the holidays, and then come right back. So we really couldn't tell, but it was definitely a dip in sales in December in terms of retail, and it definitely felt like something was brewing and you couldn't understand it. So when March came, I was like, okay, well, let's just plan what we're gonna do next. Um, we immediately wasn't selling online, so we just had got into a new system and we started selling online. We were only open. We closed now technically from March to April. We opened back up in April. We could because we was considered essential goods, but we were only there for 2 days. So we was there like Tuesdays and Thursdays from like 12 to 4. So basically, you can come pick up your wine club or anything that you ordered online. Um, and we started doing shows on Instagram. So we kind of followed what D Nice did, and a lot of people were calling us saying, you know, we at the grocery store, we don't even know how to pick wine. So we did a wine tasting class on Monday nights where people could sign up. It's called, people bring their own bottles to the tasting class. And then we actually just started interviewing different winemakers around the country, around the world, technically. And then I started doing my own thing on Thursdays where I just interviewed other like key influencers. First, it was just talk about what we can do to get through COVID. And then next it became, let's talk about your business. So we did our own show. And then when the weather broke, we just stopped. We realized that everybody was trying to be outside. And now we're gearing up to start up the shows again in January because we know we're going to be locked back in. So we kind of came up with programming and figured out some ways to be able to connect with our customers. And I think building that relationship with them and getting to know them a little bit more, and then actually reintroducing ourselves to people, we've been able to like do decently during these times. So we've been doing okay.
Great. So the virtual wine tastings and events like that, those will start back up again in January?
Well, the virtual hasn't even stopped. So that keeps going on Mondays, but we actually kind of redeveloped the curriculum. And yes, I think December kicks off a new sequence of them, and we're about to start the process of signing up. Now with just people who've been coming, word of mouth, but now we're going full stream ahead.
And how could someone join one of those virtual?
It's really simple. Just follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We'll start sending out notifications on the best way to sign up. That's what we're kind of working out now. And go from there.
Very cool.
And we also do virtual tastings as well. We haven't really put a curriculum to that. They're kind of been sporadic, but that's something we will be launching as well when January roll around.
Very cool. So, you mentioned obviously the foot traffic, I imagine, is quite a bit lower. Have you seen a spike or a strong online sales or
So I think people are discovering us online, but our foot traffic has not been that bad. So we actually, in terms of just, so we lost 3 revenue streams. So I'm not gonna sit here and say we not. But in terms of people buying bottles and taking them home, that hasn't been bad at all. I think wine is a funny thing. You can only keep going to the grocery store and keep buying bottles and it be hit and miss. This bottle good, this bottle bad. I think I like it. I think people are really valuing the fact that we really don't have a bad bottle in our store. It is the difference between good and great is personal preference. And people have literally, they trust us. So they literally been coming into the store and, putting us part of their to-do list and buying bottles from our store. So that part of it hasn't been bad.
and so let's talk about that a little bit because I've been in your store many times, and you mentioned Michigan wines, and you carry a lot of Michigan wines, but you really have wines from all over the world, and I like that you kind of categorize them by the region and the country, so it's easy for someone who's not a wine connoisseur per se to really be able to approach and browse the wine selection. So just talk a little bit about kind of how you decide what wines to stock and how you handle customers who may not have a strong palate for wine yet.
So majority of the customers don't have a strong palate for wine. I think I was like my best customer. And what I mean by that is that as much as I've been in the spirits and wine industry, which the emphasis is on champagne and cognac. That's why the champagne room's so big, because that's really what I knew. Is that wine in itself, I really didn't have as strong as knowledge as say a sommelier have in terms of comparison being an owner. So it was a lot as a person that I just didn't know, and I consider myself above average at the time when I opened up the store. And I had a hard time really understanding like why do I like this Merlot, and I go to another restaurant and I order a Merlot and I didn't like it. And what I realized was that the region made a big difference. The region in a year made a huge difference in terms of the wines. And I realized that I might like something from this region in this year, and I don't necessarily like the same grape from that region or that year. So I think what we did was we tried to break it up from regions so customers can understand that when they came in here and they say, "Oh, I like this bottle here." Well, we might not have that bottle, but what did you like about that? Oh, I liked it because this, that, and the other. I like the way it tastes. It was fruity, or it had a smooth finish, or the tannins. So those are typical attributes that sometimes that you get from region. So if it's the texture of a grape, if they like it fruity, it might be a specific year, and that year those grapes were like that. If it might be the style of the taste, it might be specifically something that is done in that region. So I can give them that grape, but a different producer. So those are some of the reasons, because a lot of times what people found out is that, why they liked it. And we kind of help them caveat why they like it. And we try to find options for them.
And you're very helpful with that. I mean, for people who go into the store, if you want to just browse by yourself, that's fine. But you and the staff are always very helpful at talking through, like you said, talking through kind of what do you like, what is your taste preference, and finding something that really works for them as well. In terms of the types of wine, have you seen, during the pandemic, is there certain types of wine that have been selling really well at all?
I think people just want to drink, unfortunately. And I mean, I just benefit from it, but this is the reality of it. What I have seen is that people have started really evolving in their palate. I think the pandemic has did something um, that most people are really at home cooking and they're experimenting more with food. So I think as the experiential aspect of them with food, has started about, I think people are now are into like pairing a great bottle of wine. Without a doubt, if you do a certain style of chicken or start certain style of uh, red meat with a type of gravy, it might not necessarily go with the typical bottle of wine you like. So I think people are trying to figure out how to cultivate those personal engagements at home. Every bottle that people are buying now is not simply, oh my God, it was a bad day at work, let me drink. I really don't care what it is. I think people are purchasing the bottles now with a little bit more of purpose in terms of why they're purchasing it to necessarily go with a meal. So I've had more conversations probably in the last 3 or 4 months of what goes with what in terms of picking bottles to go with what they're preparing at home.
Sure, yeah. And so you also mentioned picking with a purpose, and you mentioned the champagne room. So if purpose is celebrating or any kind of special occasion, you also have the a climate controlled champagne room in the back there, right?
Right. So the climate control champagne is just room is because of how we stand the bottles up. It's great to have the bottles. I always confuse this. I want to say vertical. When it's horizontal standing, then you need to make sure that the room temperature control is there. And sometimes in champagne bottles, because of the bubbles, people like the bottles to stand, and yet you need to have the right temperature control. Temperature control is everything. Like people always say, Costco's have a great selection of wine, and they do. For it to be a warehouse, it does. But because it's so hot in there, sometimes you can buy a couple bottles from Costco's and you come home and the wine is corked or it tastes different because it's kind of spoiled because it wasn't at the right temperature or it wasn't laid properly. So wine is something that you really have to take care of. It's not storage, the way you shelve it, even right down to even if you keep bottles for a long period of time, even finding ways to find people that know how to recork wine bottles. That's a necessity if you are a collector.
Yeah, oh, it's good knowledge and something that people should keep in mind when purchasing, and why a place like Pure Vin makes sense to buy from. And you also have a wide variety of price selection too. So like you said, if someone just wants to get just a bottle to drink with dinner or a bottle to drink while watching TV, you've got that. And then you also have really high end stuff for people who want to celebrate or toast a special occasion.
Right. Most of our wines are really a sweet spot between $20 to $45. We have a huge selection under 20. We have a nice selection over 45. Our goal is um, let me back up and say this here. I think the misconception is that when people see the design of the store, they automatically think that every price point in there is extremely high. It's been many times when people walked into the store and they're like, wow, we can't afford here. And I'm actually like, no, this is probably more so in your price range than anything. Um, we just like grape bottles. We really don't care what price it is or what kind of grape it is. We try to just buy what is great. And of course, if you know anything about wine, thanks to Trader Joe's, they have definitely educated the world that price doesn't mean that it's not good. So we buy what we like. And I also think about too, like what I would pay for. Um, and I look at it from that in that capacity. A lot of our wines are organic or biodynamic. I know a lot of people's into the natural wines. We have a nice selection of natural wines, but that's not our focus. Our focus has always been biodynamic, organic, um, and we have a couple of natural wines. But we like great bottles, and every bottle that I will reiterate again that's in our store is an amazing bottle. I think the difference between good and great is personal preference.
So are there any particular bottles or types of wine that you're really into right now that you're drinking a lot of?
Um, so recently I've probably been drinking a lot of Italian wines. I think because I'm home cooking a lot, so of course we have a little bit more of a soulness to our cooking in terms of the seasonings and things. So Italian wines for our style of cooking is probably a little bit better because a lot of things with the Italians they pair, they take in consideration the oils that they cook with, the seasons that they cook with. So that kind of goes well with us. I've definitely have been drinking probably a lot of, and I wasn't a huge California wine drinker until COVID, but I've been drinking a lot of California wines. Um, a lot of them I've been drinking have basically been like 15% alcohol, and they've been really smooth finishes. and they've been really great. And Spain. I've been drinking a lot of Spain wine. So Italy, Spain, and California.
Very nice combination there. So looking ahead as we wrap up here, looking ahead to the next year in 2021, what's to come for you and House of Pure Vin? I know you mentioned the online virtual events. What are some
So
things you're looking forward to?
So actually, we were in a process of changing over to a bar. We was bringing in some dispensaries into the store where we actually was gonna like redevelop our tasting room and kind of get our outdoor patio going. We're still heading into that direction. That was what we were supposed to do for 2020. Because of everything, it kind of got pushed back. But our goal is to kind of add that business model into play and be ready to go by summer 2021. I think it's cool. I think we're gonna be fine with it. Um, Worst case scenario, it'd be 2022. Um, we just got to see just, how out of hand COVID is going to be, as well as what we can do,
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I
very
think
cool.
with
So
that
you would have outdoor space too as well, patio space on Woodward?
outside in the front. So we're gonna a lot of the front windows, those big window panes kind of open up. And as well, we will have outdoor seating in the front. So we're kind of excited about that. It won't be restaurant style, it'll be more like lounge style. I think it's nothing cooler than sitting with a glass in your hand watching people walk up and down Woodward.
Can't be, yeah,
So
you cannot beat your spot for people watching.
right. So where we're gonna do some people watching, and then also too the things that we were doing that was a little bit differently that we actually kicked off in 2020. I don't know if people knew about it, but we did some things called tasting on demand, where we actually was doing intimate tastings in groups of 2, 4, 6, and 8. Well, it was really 2, 4, and 8, but now it's 2, 4, and 6 and 8 because of the COVID mandates. In our tasting room, we partnered with 3 chefs. One of the chefs is Chef Max Hardy. Most people know about him because he's a local celebrity chef. Well, he's actually a national celebrity chef, but he's locally from here. Where you will be able to rent our tasting room out to have a private wine tasting experience. So those are some of the things that we have put in place in 2020 that we wasn't able to finish doing. But we're definitely going to relaunch them by February for Valentine's Day. We feel that we've done enough research and understanding exactly how to protect ourselves against customers when they come into the store. We haven't been doing tastings now, but we said once we get through the holiday, um, we feel that with the activity and the coldness of the weather, the traffic would be slow enough where we won't have so many people like walking from off the street still trying to go into the store. So trying to manage audience as well as traffic coming in. We probably can get started with that by February and take limited reservations.
Sure. Well, that's great news. I can't wait to be able to have a glass of wine at your store, at your lounge, as it'll become.
Yes, well, it won't become a lounge quite here, but it'd be like we're gonna really utilize the tasting rooms and put some wine dispensers in there where it creates like a 31 flavors where people can taste. But then at the same time, just utilize the space outside in the summertime where we can do some wine cocktails, but that will only be limited to outside.
Gotcha. Well, that sounds really great, and I'm already thinking ahead to warmer times. So that's it's awesome. So people can follow you, and obviously we want to make sure people know who you are, but also how to get to go to the store and use your services. So follow you. You said on Instagram and Facebook.
Right. You can join our mailing list on houseofpurevin.com if needed to be. As well as, just call the store. We're open. We're open Wednesday through Sunday. But after Thanksgiving for the holidays, we will open up again for 7 days a week. We did reduce our hours. So our hours is Monday through Thursday from 12 to 6. We're open to 7 on Fridays and Saturdays and 5 o'clock on Sundays.
Great. All right. Well, as we mentioned, I hope people come down and check you out. I hope people engage in the virtual events. It's it's a tough time, but it seems like innovative business owners like you are finding ways to manage through this, and we look forward to brighter days ahead.
Yes, absolutely. This definitely is a tough time. This is, support your small businesses as much as possible. You'll be people. I think people are surprised just as how many people that we employ, how many people we are responsible for. When we're not eating, they can't eat. And whatever, we can do to kind of, keep the lights on and keep going, that'd be great. So thank you for the support and congratulations, Devin, on your marriage. I know getting married through COVID times is not the best, but I'm sure that you and your bride um, are enjoying this moment of being able to work from home and spending this time together. You have a honeymoon every day.
That's a great way. That's a great way to put it. Well said, Regina. Well, I know you got to get down to the store. So we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to continued success with the House of Pure Vin.
Definitely. And Devin, when you think about your Christmas gifts and people who you want to ship to, keep us in mind. We would definitely can be your options in terms of shipping accessories and wines to your friends in different cities and different states.
All right, and I hope that everybody listening and watching knows that as well. Look forward to talking again soon. Thanks, Regina.
Thank you.